Hey everybody, my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and I want to talk a little bit about the value of, you know, a framing nudge in a sense. Okay, so for example, a lot of people agree with sort of the sentiment that taxation is theft. Problem is, when you sit there and you say that to most people who are not libertarians, in their immediate term, they're like, but the roads, and then they're thinking like, but it's not theft. That's the price we pay for society and all these things. So going forth with sort of really bold statements like that to a non-libertarian isn't always a good way to start a conversation. It's a good way to start someone on the defensive and already make them initially hostile to anything you're going to say going forward. Not that it isn't fun at a libertarian meeting to say taxation is theft and have everyone cheer. I think there's a role for it being sort of a fun, hoorah, fun thing between each other. But again, when you're advocating to non-libertarians, you got to realize sort of the canyon and distance that you're from them. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't push them towards these ideas. Okay, and the reason I bring this up is because I recently put out a meme where I introduce the terms taxation and theft. I don't say taxation is theft, but what I do is I try to frame the argument, one, that any taxation, so basically, that basically whatever money you take from people that's beyond whatever you need to fund whatever you think the basic functions of government are. And again, there might be people who think there are no necessary functions of government, so in that case, all taxation is too much and is theft. But the idea is that it's not as necessarily saying excess taxation, and again, you can believe that all taxation is excess taxation, that excess taxation could be considered theft. It creates a smaller bridge to start having people start to think through the idea. And in the meme, I also try to give them like practical stuff in the sense that, taxation has an effect on investment decisions and whatnot. You'd be surprised if when you really try, how much you can say in a couple sentences. But the idea was to help someone who doesn't already have this idea or haven't even an inkling to this idea to sit there and to be like, okay, I can see some sense there. I can acknowledge that there's some excesses, and I can see that there's a negative effect. Once you have them kind of pulling on that thread, the thread continues. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go, suddenly have a montage of Rothbard, Friedman, Mises, and Hayek in their bedroom door the next day, but it can begin the path to that thought process. And that's generally always my goal. My goal isn't necessarily to sit there and be like, my goal is to shift the frame. Once I can get you to start creating a frame that will lean you in a libertarian direction, you're going to start leaning in a libertarian direction more and more so now, because that frame is now how you're going to look at other things. That frame now exists. That chain of thought now exists in your head and has clicked. Okay, but I need to get you to at least accept the logical steps. And once you have that, you can start applying it to other things, and you'll start seeing that it does apply to other things, and then you start applying it deeper and deeper and deeper till you kind of get to a much deeper libertarianism. But if I just tell you sort of if I tell you the end of the story without explaining how you got there or giving you a time to get there, it's going to be hard for you to have the same level of conviction. Deep conviction comes from just trying things out, a lot of experimentation, a lot of reflection, but I need to get you on that road. So generally, that's my approach. That's generally why I'll frame things the way I frame them and saying things, because those who've had sort of personal one-on-one conversations with me know that I'm not my views are not moderate by any stretch of the imagination, but I try to be as accessible and thoughtful as possible, because I'm not expecting that I'm going to convince you to think exactly the way I think in a conversation. But what I can do is I can help you see the logical patterns that you can begin applying yourself and deciding how they apply to get you there down the road, to get you to a deeper libertarianism. And you won't even realize anyone influenced you there. You might not even realize that you're a libertarian, but what's more importantly, I do want people to call themselves libertarian, but more importantly is that you think and apply sort of a libertarian framework and get there, and not because I want people to be libertarian, it's because I want people to live freer lives. To one, kind of look at themselves and be like, you know what? I'm free. I can change my circumstances. I'm going to go work hard and make the life that I want. And two, so that way they don't use others at their expense. And so I'm going to make the life that I want, but I will not do it at the expense of others. And those are the two parts. Okay, and if I can get you to kind of similar conclusions and start applying it also to how you see others behave and whatnot, that's awesome. But again, the idea is to implant the seed, they implant the idea, they give you the logical steps to think through it. Even if I apply it in a very soft way, once that path has been walked once, it's easier to walk it again, and those footprints get much, much deeper. That's my approach. I want you, basically, it's that sort of that whole frog boiling thing where you increase the heat very softly. And it's not that I've never been, in your face. Probably not, actually. I can't think, even at my most in your face, I still probably am not as in your face as some. But I've always found giving people that thoughtful approach, once that perception, to be a way to get across much quicker and nudge people in that direction. And again, it's more, I don't want to tell people what to think, but give people the tools to think. And then generally people just naturally get to where I am, because you just logically get there. It's logical. So that's generally my approach, and the point of this video was to just talk about framing. The idea is that sometimes a little application, without closing the door to bigger applications. Okay, so kind of going back to that whole taxation is theft thing, I basically kind of made it sound like I'm saying a little taxation is theft, but I didn't close the door to all taxation is theft. And that allows people to kind of work and apply the logic in that meme further and further and further into a bigger ideal, because you don't want to necessarily like create shock and awe or sound like you're not being thoughtful about what you're saying. So if you haven't seen that meme, go back through the Facebook page and look at the posts, and you'll find that meme and another meme regarding licensing and another stuff. And again, I didn't close the door to the boldest proposition you can think of, but I left the door open that you can kind of find your way thinking about it regardless of where you are. And when you go back and read it again later after reflecting on it, you might read it a little bit deeper, and then you can keep reading it deeper and deeper and deeper, so you find yourself so far down the rabbit hole that you do have that montage in the back of your door. So my name is Alex Merced, and from alexmerced.com. Hopefully you guys found that interesting and useful as far as thinking through how you communicate and what your goal is when you communicate. And that's an important thing too, though. Just kind of, before you ever do and say anything, ask yourself, well, what is my intent with what I say? What is the response I'm hoping to elicit? And also, when you take a look at what other people say, ask yourself, what was their intention? It'll help you be a better communicator, a better listener, and overall more effective in anything that you do. Not just talk about libertarianism, but anything. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. Have a great day.